People united! We'll never be defeated! El pueblo unido! Jamás será vencido! Ang tao, ang bayan! Listen, I'll say, APEC, don't come to downtown, and then you'll say, we'll shut it down. Does that make sense? Yeah! I said, APEC, don't come to town. Shut it down. Say, APEC, don't come to town. Hey, say, APEC, don't come to town. Get up, get down. Let me see, get up, now get down.
Hi everyone, I'm Wynn, your MC today. We have a spectacular program today, but we know why we're here, right? We're here because we're agitated. We're here right here in the steps of San Francisco City Hall because we're fed up with the proposed budget, with the proposed policies that Mayor London Breed, as well as the public officials and lapdogs are trying to carry out. So what we're here is not just for us, but also people in our homelands, in the Asia Pacific and the world. This fight, no to APEC, is not just a national one, not just a local one, not just a regional one, it's an international one, right? So we have right here, no to APEC, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. We're here to say stop corporate plunder, and this campaign, this is the launch of the National Coalition of the United States. And so we at San Francisco, as we at the Bay Area, are holding it down here today, but also throughout November. The official launch of the No to APEC Coalition. Today, again, what we're denouncing is not just APEC, but also the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. We're here against liberalization. We're here against deregulation. We're here against free trade policies that are going to exploit our people. And the exploitation, we know, is not far. It's right here. And each and every one of us here know what that feels like, right? And so here, we're here to denounce all the reforms that are supposedly for our people, that are supposedly for sustainability. And so with that, I'd also like to commend, again, Anaheim City College San Francisco, as well as the different organizations here, SF Living Wage Coalition, SF CHUR, Malaya SF, Gabriella, all the folks that were also here lobbying not too long ago and continuing to say to the public officials, hell no, to laying out the sweeps, the policies that are going to bring in the fascist dictators and presidents to plunder our country right around the corner at SF Moscone Center. And so I'd like to introduce our first speaker who can speak exactly to that, to the militarization and share how it's connected, that militarization, economic, environmental plunder, and why we're here today is all connected. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker from San Francisco Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, Brandon Lee.
The Mining Act of 1995 opened up the mining industry to environmental disaster and economic plunder of the natural resources of indigenous peoples' lands. And when the indigenous peoples protest, they are met with threats, harassment, surveillance, abductions, and even extrajudicial killings. Just recently, 4 of my colleagues in the Cordillera People's Alliance were tagged as terrorists by the Anti-Terrorist Council. They have been protesting APEC alongside the Filipino people in Manila in 2015 and in 1996. Keeps attacking its people. We were hosed down in 2015, and even a police car tried to run down some of the activists protesting the U.S. Embassy. That's why we are denouncing APEC in San Francisco. We denounce Marcos coming here along with 21 heads of state and over 300 CEOs, putting profit over people.
We're here with the Filipino people, and we're here alongside other movements fighting for the homeland and human rights.
My name is Maggie, and I organize with Anak Bayan City College of San Francisco, representing the youth, students, and student workers. I'm a third-generation San Francisco native, and while attending school, working, and just living in the city, I've only seen the working class's conditions grow worse. In this recent budget season, London Breed has decided to cut millions of dollars towards services for the people, like affordable housing and food programs, for example, services that this city and our communities, we rely on. Over 100 people and 30-plus organizations attended the final budget advocacy day to voice their concerns regarding the mayor's outrageous budget. Members of student, women, and youth organizations, Anak Bayan City College, League of Filipino Students SF State, and Gabriela SF State, we took the time knocking door to door to different supervisors regarding the $20 million budget going to APEC. We let them know the harm that APEC has caused when it was hosted in previous places. Like in 2011, when it was hosted in Hawaii, protesters were met with tanks and military, just militia. In 2020, only last year, protesters in Thailand were met with rubber bullets and beatings from batons, standing up for their rights. And this is what we'll continue to see with APEC being hosted down the street at the Moscone Center. An increase of militarization and policing on our houseless community as residents of the Soma. As London Breed cuts essential services that help our houseless community, she increases the police budget, making it a total of $1 billion now. $1 billion! For receptions and lavish dinners for these billionaires, more food programs providing families bread and butter are being cut? What is that? So we continue to fight for our basic human rights in one of the richest cities in the country. San Francisco will be opening its doors and rolling out red carpets to the 21 fascist members participating in the APEC Summit. So we keep hearing that APEC will bring profit back to our city, but this summit will actually do more harm than help. APEC is actually promoting deregulation, the loosening of laws for business practices. This summit will finalize deals of privatization, meaning our public services will now be privately owned by big corporations. Another transparent case of profit over the people. London Breed has already put $10 million of public money in reserves for APEC, and she desires to fundraise $20 million more from private corps for the APEC Summit, which will only last 2 days.
about, the future of our future is actually not with us, right? People in ASEAN, people in APEC, people in the UN, right? So we have to oppose and expose every part that is wrong with what they're trying to say, right? They're saying sustainability, we're saying exploitation. And so we just want to be clear with that it is no accident that San Francisco is chosen to host the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation All Leaders Conference. This isn't just the beginning, right? The talks have been started all the way in Thailand, right? They've also already stopped by Detroit. They're stopping by Seattle, and they're going to come to San Francisco. And we're going to be ready to fight. Is that right? Yeah! We're going to be ready to fight, and we're going to shut it down. Let's go. Yes, boo, and also expose and oppose, right? Why in the world is APEC being hosted, right? When people's needs aren't being served, right? All our needs are being neglected from here to also all over the world. Yeah. And so with that, I want to introduce our first speaker here who will tell us why else are we opposing the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation? Why are we opposing the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework? I'd like to introduce Harry Vallon of International Migrants Alliance.
We're one of the sponsors and steering committee members of the No to APEC Coalition. And I am very excited to join with all of you today for the official launch of the No to APEC Coalition. Give it up for yourselves, y'all. So EMA, we're a global alliance of grassroots migrants, refugees, and displaced people. Here and around the world, we have 175 migrant organizations in more than 35 different countries all over the world. And what we're seeing today is that forced migration and displacement of more than 330 million people all over the world due to the worst impacts of neoliberal globalization, including things like NAFTA, the USMCA, and APEC, the climate crisis, and the wars against the people raging around the world, including in the Asia-Pacific region. EMA USA is excited to join today's public launch of the National No to APEC Coalition with over 40 members of the coalition. Who's part of the coalition? Raise your hand, shout yourselves out. We have groups from across the country joining us up to today and moving forward from all sectors of society, including labor, environmental, women, migrant and immigrant, indigenous people, anti-war, and human rights organizations to build the people's movement against APEC and also against the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF, that the U.S. is pushing in this current round of APEC talks in November. We were there, and EMA was there in Thailand when Kamala Harris decided she's going to invite APEC to come to the U.S. November this year. San Francisco, our backyard. All throughout the year have responded to the need to oppose APEC and how it will continue to drive down wages, plunder the environment, and displace and disempower workers and whole communities throughout U.S. and the whole Asia-Pacific region. The U.S. Biden administration has been using APEC to push its overall Indo-Pacific strategy, continue to impose its hegemony through these trade talks, but also backed up by its intensifying military presence in places like the Philippines, Korea, Okinawa, and the Pacific Islands, bringing us closer and closer to war. The U.S. is competing with China in the region to consolidate its economic power with its trading partners, all at the expense of workers and everyday people, and for the profits of the biggest corporations who are directly engaged in APEC and other free trade negotiations. We are hearing how the U.S. is struggling to secure all of its exploitative and flexible arrangements it wants through APEC, so it engages in other backroom talks with countries like India in the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework to ensure maximum freedom and flexibility for who? For the imperialist governments and the multinational corporations. As a host country, Biden invited Prime Minister Modi from India as a guest of the host country. Who's against Modi? To join this November. He and Bongbong Marcos Jr., the son of a dictator, will be here as well in November. So behind closed doors, APEC leaders will set trade policies and frameworks that will only cause more massive displacement, more forced migration, more climate crises, more worker exploitation, and more potential war against the needs and interests of the people and the planet. Today we have come together from the anti-globalization movements over the last decades to the powerful anti-war movements across the country to build a powerful coalition against APEC happening in our own backyard here in San Francisco. And we have to build a larger movement against neoliberal globalization in the years to come. This is a critical moment of struggle for the Asia-Pacific region and the world post-pandemic. Will we have a people's recovery and real economic solutions? Or will we face more worsening political, economic, and climate crises, increasing war and militarization of our homes and communities? In San Francisco, community groups, housing groups, worker organizations, and others oppose Mayor London Breed's support, funding, and hosting of APEC, right? These bankers, corporate elites, and heads of state in the city at a time when this city is struggling. You see the struggle on the streets right here, struggling to meet the basic housing, health, food security, and child and educational needs of the people. Today we build on that, the power of that local fight and the people's opposition in Detroit and Seattle to officially launch the National No to APEC Coalition to bring together the broadest and most powerful voices of those marginalized, excluded, exploited, and even killed in the name of APEC and free trade. No to APEC! People over profit!
People over profit!
I'd like to introduce Rebecca, Vice Chair of Myanmar Student Union. Please give it up for Rebecca.
Hello, comrades. So my name is Rebecca. I'm the Vice President of Myanmar Student Union at Skyline College, the first overseas chapter of the All Burma Federation of Student Unions. Today, I stand before you to deliver a statement on behalf of Myanmar Student Union, expressing our firm opposition to the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation and our unwavering commitment to resist imperialism. The Myanmar Student Union vehemently opposed the APEC and stand in unwavering solidarity with the people who have been subjected to exploitation, oppression, and the devastating consequences of imperialism. We're committed to resisting the forces of exploitation, feudalism, and all those who prioritize their selfish interests at the expense of the well-being of our fellow citizens. APEC's economic endeavors have left an undeniable mark for suffering on our community, marked by the tragic coup in Myanmar and the subsequent brutalities inflicted upon our people. The February 1st, 2021 coup in Myanmar has resulted in great human rights abuses and loss of life. A total of 3,780 individuals, including pro-democracy activists and civilians, have been killed as a result of military crackdown against the pro-democracy movement. The military junta's actions since the coup have led to widespread arrests, with the 23,792 individuals detained. Currently, 6,729 individuals are serving sentences, and there are currently 154 post-coup death row prisoners as of July 11, 2023. Additionally, 122 people have been sentenced in absentia, including 43 who have received death rows. These figures demonstrate the gross violation of human rights and the disregard for justice by the military junta. The wealth accumulated by the APEC carries the stain of bloodshed and tears shed by the innocent individuals fighting for the freedom, justice, and democracy. It is utterly reasonable that APEC members who are supposed to be ambassadors of their respective countries have instead become a compliant to the dictatorship and the oppressive fascist regime. We fully trampling upon the hopes, dreams, and fundamental rights of our people. Instead, they exploit our labor, suppress our voices, and perpetuate the disparities that plague our society. These self-proclaimed ambassadors have become nothing more than puppets of imperialism, perpetuating a system that thrives on the blood, sweat, and tears of the working class, leaders that impoverish and powerless. Even though Myanmar is not officially part of the APEC, we must not forget the impact these people have on our nation. Powerful nations such as China and Russia shamelessly embrace the dictators ruling their farm, aligning themselves with oppressive forces that have caused immeasurable suffering. The profit made by Chevron and MOGE from the natural resources of Myanmar has been used for aviation fuel support from Russia and China. As a result, there has been numerous targeted airstrikes at the civilian population since the coup, and recently in Sagai province, Myanmar armed forces bombed a village, killing 174 people, including many children as young as 6 months old and pregnant women. These extrajudicial killings, mass arrests, and brutal attacks at villages are aided and funded by ASEAN nations, states, and cooperation. Singapore's bank have facilitated 1 billion transfer for the Myanmar military to buy weapons. Singapore must side with the Myanmar people. ASEAN nation states like Singapore, along with Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, and Brunei, and the other corporations are also in the APEC. Other members' enemies economies like Russia, China, Japan, South Korea, US, similarly aided and abetted the fascist Myanmar also. These plunderers and looters will be coming to San Francisco in November. And we call upon all progressive forces to join us in the No to APEC coalition.
International solidarity! International solidarity! International solidarity!
Thank you so much.
Great, right? And because their labor is being exploited, because there isn't a better future, they're forced to go somewhere else. And so with that, in connection to that too, we want to also bring up San Francisco Living Wage Coalition, which can speak to that, who have been, waging mass struggles and local fights, but also has been a longtime friend that has been fighting against free trade policies and also fighting for migrants as well. So let's give it up to Carl of San Francisco Living Wage Coalition.
I'm going to start by quoting a San Francisco labor leader, the president of the San Francisco Labor Council, Mike Casey, who would say in these circumstances, we've seen this movie before. 1994, with the first free trade agreement, the North America Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, we saw transnational corporations move production across the border to huge factories in Mexico, maquiladoras. We almost immediately lost 500,000 good-paying factory jobs in the United States. Well, to fill those factories in Mexico, they allowed U.S. agribusiness to dump cheap corn in the Mexican market, almost immediately putting 2 million farming families out of their livelihoods, losing their land, so they had to migrate up to the border areas to work in the maquiladoras at the time of the equivalent of $5 per day. Then in 1999, we had the battle in Seattle. That was when the international financiers decided they were going to make China the workshop of the world at 25 cents per hour for the price of labor. And we saw a Taiwan-based company, Foxconn, building factories in China for the assembly of iPhones. And the young workers there that were in that factory system, they lived in the dormitories on the factories. And when the supervisors in need to meet an order of iPhones, get more workers out on the assembly line, they'd go around, knock on doors, wake people up, get them out on the assembly line. Young workers that felt trapped in these jobs started diving out the windows of their dormitory rooms. Then we heard a report that 100 workers had gone up on a roof and threatened to do a mass suicide until conditions started improving. Well, that was starting to take force all over the country in labor unrest. And so we saw wages start to rise. And then it became a new strategy on the top of trinational corporations to have a strategy of finding another low-wage labor area other than China. That we saw the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was to force down wages in other parts of the world and have low-wage production in Vietnam and Malaysia, to have that as a source for cheap labor for transnational corporations. Under President Enrique Peña Nieto, he devalued the peso, so now that the minimum wage in Mexico was the equivalent of $4 per day, it lost 25% of its value. As he lured the production by transnational corporations to increase in Mexico, and we saw two Foxconn factories built up in Ciudad Juarez. Well, that year, 6 huge maquiladoras in Ciudad Juarez went out on strike. Thousands of workers were out on strike. And they went and petitioned the labor board for having union recognition, having votes for a union, and they were denied in every case. Except for one, where actually they went and did a sit-in on the labor board's office until they finally were granted union recognition. But even then, the corporation beat them down. By 2018, we saw the election of Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who raised the minimum wage on the border areas to $8 per day. The factories in Matamoros, Tamaulipas refused to pay that new minimum wage, and 35,000 workers had to go out on strike to force those companies to start paying that minimum wage. Right now, with the IPEF, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, this is just a warmed-over strategy of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that now the new low-wage areas are going to be, again, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, the Philippines. We're seeing a lot of call center jobs being shipped to the Philippines. I mean, there's no accident that probably many of the people here are Filipinos and Filipinas, knowing the devastating effect that this framework will have on their countries. And the Biden administration is saying this is not a trade deal. It's not dealing directly with tariffs. So he's not even going to bring it to Congress. They're going to try to wrap this up without any debate in Congress. As we tell our members, there's no way we're going to be able to achieve a living wage in this country while transnational corporations can move across an imaginary line in the sand or a line in the water and pay the equivalent of $4 per day, or pay even lower wages in other parts of the world. We need to make sure that the power of these transnational corporations are reined in.
Yeah.
Right now in Piedra Negras, Coahuila, VU manufacturing workers have been fighting for a union there. They had to go to the Mexican Ministry of Labor and the U.S. Department of Labor to file complaints under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement that their rights were being violated. They won union recognition, but now the company is fighting at the negotiating table and has just fired 200, half of the workers there at that factory. They're basically putting a challenge up to the government saying, let's see what you're going to do about this. So, people before profits. No to APEC.
People over profit? No to APEC. People over profit? No to APEC. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. 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 APEC, no cut this down. Joining the coalition, Rising Tides is one of them, environmental organization. Give it up for Rising Tides. As y'all know, today is the National No to Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation launch. These that overlap between APEC, ASEAN, etc., are coming together to continue those talks. And so with that, we say hell no. No to APEC. People over profit. No to APEC. People over profit. No to APEC. People over profit. And so with IPEF and APEC, we know that all the wealth that has been extracted, we have all that wealth being extracted is being used to repress the working people. And so all that wealth, the way it makes the working people suffer is also having those funds go towards fascism, towards the policing to repress against people that are rising up against their economic conditions. And when that happens, we know that they can't happen without fascist dictators. And so some of the fascist dictators that have been mentioned or that we know of that also overlap within APEC come from also non-APEC cooperation members too, from different regions in the Asia Pacific. We got Modi. We also got Min Aung Hlaing, right, from India to Myanmar. We also got Marcos. So y'all name it, right? All those dictators and fascist heads of state are collaborating, including with each other, to oppress our people. And so with that, I'd like to bring up our sibling, Alliance for South Asians Taking Action. Please give it up for Renuka.
Renuka Garg, I use she, her pronouns, and I am a member of the Alliance of South Asians Taking Action, or ASATA. We are a Bay Area-based grassroots member-led organization that has been active in anti-war and labor justice movements since our founding in 1999. We are part of this coalition because we recognize that the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF, is a policy designed by multinational corporations based in the U.S. with the sole intention of pushing corporate interests. Its purpose is to secure profit for the U.S. and its corporations and exercise control over the global South economies and at the expense of working people worldwide. With India as a key member of IPEF, we know that APEC and IPEF will spiral working class people in both the U.S. and India into a series of manufactured economic crises. Like many countries, India has dealt with consequences of corporate greed and economic exploitation during one of the most vulnerable times, Due to a lack of access to COVID vaccines and medication in India, millions of people suffered as corporations placed their profits over people's lives, and governments like the US failed to act in the name of corporate interests and nationalism, prolonging the pandemic and creating devastating surges across the world. IPEF's digital trade component would continue to allow big tech to consolidate power and continue to enable governments like the Modi government in India to increase surveillance and threaten the safety and security of Muslims, Dalits, and other minoritized communities. And engaging in a proxy war with China through IPEF acts as a tool to legitimize fascist leaders like Modi. Modi, an unequivocal Hindu nationalist, was previously denied a U.S. visa for nearly a decade due to his orchestration of the 2002 ethnic cleansing while chief minister of the Indian state of Gujarat. Since becoming prime minister, his government has been responsible for a rapid increase in crackdowns, surveillance, censorship, incarceration of activists, educators, working people, with a particular focus on stoking communal violence against Muslims, Dalits, Adivasis, or tribal communities, and queer and trans people. However, despite Modi's legacy of human rights abuses, India's full participation in IPEF has been a priority for the Biden administration, as India is a major economic power in the region. In fact, IPEF was a major focus of Prime Minister Modi's recent visit to the White House. Through its attempts to win Modi's favor for IPEF, the Biden administration is indicating that it is willing to turn a blind eye to fascism and violence against innocent people, that it will prioritize increased geopolitical power and profit for the U.S. and its corporations over the health and safety of working class people in the U.S. and the global South. You too as well. Thank you.
That's right, Biden and Modi have been shaking hands, and we say hell no to that.
Thank you all for the distinct honor and privilege of speaking with you today. My name is Mira, and I'm from the California Trade Justice Coalition, which is a coalition of labor, environmental, and human rights organizations, all focused on fighting against corporate-driven trade policies. So the main item of the APEC agenda in November is the proposed new trade deal called the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEC for short. IPEF currently includes 14 countries, and more countries are joining all the time. Together, they will govern approximately 40% of the global economy. IPEF is going to be massive.
Yeah.
We've seen that here in the United States, corporate profits and interests are put before human lives and the environment. And it's through trade policies over the years that the U.S. has forced that idea onto countries all around the world. Corporates are pushing for IPEF to make it easier to drive down wages around the world and create conditions where workers are most exploited and environmental regulations are the weakest. Corporations want to use IPEF to make it even easier to engage in rip and strip resource extraction throughout the Asia Pacific region. So timber, petroleum, natural gas, and palm oil plantations are all up for grabs. Beyond being horrible for the climate, biodiversity, and local environmental justice, parts of IPEF could even take away countries' right to add value to natural resources in country. So, in other words, timber from a pristine rainforest that's being converted into high-end furniture that will be processed abroad rather than locally. So, local workers will be deprived of important jobs, wages, and tax revenue. Greenwash the pact. So, this happens time and time again with trade deals done by the United States. Corporations get more of a say and more influence than people do. And if that weren't bad enough, they're also pushing for IPEF to have what's called a good regulatory practice chapter, which is deliberately designed to sound innocuous. Who could oppose good practices, right? But it's really about setting up mandatory cost-benefit analysis and corporate stakeholder engagement at all levels of policymaking so that fossil fuel companies and others have new tools to weaken, delay, and kill climate policies. And the single biggest thing corporations are pushing for in IPEF is for it to become a backdoor means of blocking regulations affecting consumer privacy, data security, algorithm discrimination, gig economy worker protections, and antitrust. At a moment when people are finally starting to pay attention to the oversized role that big tech has in our economy and society, these companies view IPEF and trade-related deals as a way to lock their weak level of non-regulation over them into place and block new regulations. They They want IPEC to turn algorithm source codes into the quote-unquote trade secrets, so that outside a very narrow set of parameters, they're completely inaccessible to researchers, regulators, civil society groups, class action attorneys, and others trying to combat AI discrimination. And they want IPEC to undermine antitrust rules that encourage healthy competition and other attempts to break up big tech monopolies. We can't let them get away with that. It's crucial that we will not allow big tech to make IPEC into a Trojan horse sneak attack that prevents future trade regulations. Let trade negotiators and other government officials think that corporate lobbyists are the only people they need to answer to. So far, this trade deal has been negotiated in the shadows, and it's up to us to expose and stop a bad trade deal from being approved. That's why we're here today with you all, to make sure that people know what's being done in their names, so that we can all work together for and during November to ensure that IPEC is not just another in a long line of terrible trade policies advanced by the United States. Thank you.
Of Gabriella USA and rep member of International Women's Alliance. Give it up for Pixie.
And we're here in the U.S. to continue the fight against APEC and demand that the city of San Francisco, the United States, and the country signed onto the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation itself put down their neoliberal schemes and actually prioritize women over profit, prioritize people over profit. At Gabriella USA, we see the women's liberation movement is a vital and inseparable part of the national and democratic rights for which the entire Filipino people and the people abroad are fighting for. And for women overseas, especially migrant working women, we continue to fight against the state neglect at the hands of the Philippine state, just like the Philippine consulate here in San Francisco. And we urge that the money being put into hosting APEC is put into services and not surveillance. Unemployment is the highest in the Philippines, where women are majority unemployed, and seeing the face of women considered the most informally employed statistically. We know that this forces women to go abroad for work. This is the lived experiences of many of our families who tell us that they left the Philippines for a better life. And we found ourselves here in the belly of the beast, continuing to be part of the most exploited peoples overseas. APEC is targeting women, like the women in our families, to start micro businesses, saying that these are opportunities for economic growth. But these are only band-aid solutions. Yes. In the long term, these multinational corporations, like these companies that are hosting APEC here in San Francisco, will eat these micro businesses like small fish in an ocean of neoliberal and imperialist sharks. Policies suppress the rights of the working class, but there is also the objective situation of the working class losing our jobs, having meager incomes that make life even more difficult. We must come together and unite. We must unite on what are our tactics and strategies. How do we communicate our messages? How do we reach out and agitate the working class and the people